Roll call, Mayor Hines.
Present.
Mr. Nikolis.
Here.
Mr. Bontempo.
Here.
Mr. Catelli is absent. Dr. Pascucci.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Excellent. Well, we certainly want to welcome our new administrator, Sharon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Very excited to have you. I told everyone you will be buying the first few rounds, so wherever you want to pick the spot, everyone will follow you there.
If I may, nobody is happier than me.
Chief, we'll give you credit when credit's due, and clearly you've gone above and beyond. You've been a good soldier, and I think it's worth a round of applause to the chief. We got approval of minutes.
Approval of minutes, both executive and public sessions for July 9, 2019, which were forwarded to the Township Committee on October 31st for review.
I'll move. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Nikolis?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mayor Hines?
Yes.
The minutes have been approved.
Consent agenda.
Resolutions 2019-324 to 2019-346.
Motion. Second. Roll call.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Nikolis?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mayor Hines?
Yes. 8, introduction of ordinance.
We have introduction of ordinance 2019-30, which is restricting elected officials of the Township of Homedale from receiving health insurance and similar benefits.
Motion.
I'll move. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Nikolis?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mayor Hines?
Yes. 9. That's the hearing of ordinance.
Hearing on ordinance 2019-29, which is a bond ordinance amending sections 4 and 10 of the bond ordinance number 2019-09 entitled Bond Ordinance to Authorize the Making of Various Public Improvements and the Acquisition of New Technology and Telecommunications Equipment, New Communication and Signal System Equipment, and new automotive vehicles, including original apparatus and equipment in, by, and for the Township of Homedale in the County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $9,130,000 to pay costs thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds, adopted on August 13, 2019 in Homedale Township.
Public hearing.
Adopted August 3rd.
So just as, Mike, Counselor, do you mind just explaining what of this, and so.
Certainly. The wording, I understand the confusion, but this is amending a past bond ordinance which was adopted on August 13th, 2019, and this addresses the concern that was raised publicly at past meetings about the fire truck being able to be procured pursuant to the bond ordinance. So this is the public hearing on the ordinance allowing for the fire
This
truck.
is final reading.
Correct. So
Right. If there's no public comment, we vote on it.
It is. Okay, sir.
So public meeting,
Public
hearing. Seeing no public hearings, roll call.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
I'm sorry, motion. Second. Did you make the motion, Greg?
Yes.
Second,
Yes.
roll call.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Nikolis?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mayor Hines?
Yes.
Okay.
Departments, I'm going to start with,
I'm sorry.
yeah, that's why I'm going to start with legal.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
I'm going to
Sounds
start
good.
with you.
Thank you, Mayor. The committee met in executive session earlier this evening to discuss the issue of affordable housing. The Township's affordable housing attorney briefed the Township Committee. While we obviously can't get into the details of those discussions because they're subject to attorney-client privilege and are part of ongoing litigation, the court has required the Township to take various actions between now and the date of the next scheduled Township Committee meeting relating to the Township's affordable housing obligations. And some of those actions involve the introduction and adoption of certain ordinances. So the committee has directed that we introduce these ordinances by title this evening, and obviously this is simply an introduction. These are not law yet. There will be a public hearing scheduled at a date certain at a meeting, and the public can comment at that time, and obviously the final adoption vote would be required in order for these to become law. But again, the court has required that these actions be taken. The township's affordable housing attorney was before the judge along with the other affordable housing litigants, and these actions are being taken at the behest of the court in anticipation of a court order that's supposed to be entered any day. The first ordinance is an ordinance amending Chapter 30, Development Regulations of the Code of the Township of Homedale by rezoning Block 59, Lots 6 and 7 from the Transitional Mixed Highway-oriented TMHO zone and the Route 35 overlay zone to the Affordable Housing Mixed Use AH-MU to allow for mixed-use residential market rate and affordable housing units. This is being introduced for a scheduled public hearing at the December 10th meeting. Yes.
I can make a motion.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Nikolis?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mayor Hines?
Yes.
Okay, and there's one more ordinance for the committee, and this one is titled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 30 Development Regulations of the Code of the Township of Homedale by repealing Section 30-135 in its entirety and creating a new Section 30-137 entitled Affordable Housing Multifamily AH-MF Zone District rezoning Block 52, Lots 17 and 18 to allow for residential market rate and affordable housing units similar to the last one. This is for introduction and a public hearing scheduled for the December 10th meeting.
Make a motion.
A second. Roll call.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Nikolis?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mayor Hines?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Administrators for the one meeting.
I have a lot.
All good.
Really, Chief?
Give me 1 second.
No.
I have spent the day with Sharon, trying to get her caught up. It's going to take several more years. But no, the transition will be perfect.
That's a promise.
Nothing like an optimist. Ed Broberg, legendary engineer. Anything you want to add?
No, not really, but we're making good progress on the Bell Works project. Many of the things that you've been talking about in the past several weeks are underway or complete.
Chief Financial Guru.
No additional comments tonight.
We'll take it to the committee. I'm actually going to go first tonight. Because I never go first. JCPL. So one of the things that we've struggled with every time there's a storm is losing power. And, you know, I've spent a lot of time dealing with, you know, how can we avoid that? So over the last few months, we've had 4 or 5 really good meetings, and I got very excited. I got an email today from John Meehan with a summary that I will put out. Literally got this today with all the streets, and there are about a dozen to 15 of all the proactive trimming that's going to be done. So there's a lot of old sections of Homedale, and it seems to be a very preventable thing that during these storms, it's causing a lot of disruption. You know, they do give us the opportunity to review some of the technology upgrades they're doing and what they're doing to prevent power from going down. But the overhang removal is very, very important. So I just wanted to mention that, and that is my one update. I'm going to go to my right, Mr. Nikolis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one thing that came up today. On Christmas Day last year, we lost one of our young residents, Alex Ching, and the family reached out to me, and they would like to memorialize and honor Alex with a dog park in Homedale. And I told Lisa Ching, who's also she has a rescue dog, and she's also in the schools with the service dog. And one of the ways I want to do is to honor Alex is to have a dog park, and they would like some guidance and some input from the committee. So I'd like to make the motion that we give direction to our recreation department to move forward in investigating and looking ways to make that happen.
Second.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Nikolis?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mayor Hines?
Yes. Sorry. Anything else, Mike?
That's it.
Rocco?
Quickie on fire, I know you guys are chomping at the bit. You know where we are, we've had two plans, one making the old first aid and firehouse into a new giant firehouse, building a new first aid building. First aid has been going back and forth with the architect, and they finally agreed on a plan that they're comfortable with. So that option seems to be put on the shelf for now. Fire, as far as redoing the building, we still don't have a consensus from the fire department. As far as putting another one on F&F, the problem we have there is we're only can use one spot right now. We're still trying to find out if there's another spot on the F&F that we can move it to that might be a little better for a firehouse. So we still have the same two plans. One more meeting with the fire department and our new administrator, and then my plan is to bring it back to us. And us five are going to have to say which way are we going. First aid building, redo of the fire first aid, or a new firehouse. So I will bring it back, I promise, next time. But I think we need one more meeting with the fire department before we bring it back to the full committee, and we should make the decision. Thank you.
Rick?
So Public Works is leaf collections underway. They are up to zone or section C and are moving throughout the town. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Public comment? Public. Joe? Joe, come on down.
Joe Crowley, 15 Ely Road. Two things I'm looking for information for. One is regarding the firehouse decision that the council will be making, I guess. Will there be a discussion of pros and cons or rationale behind the selection that's shared with the committee? That's shared with the public, rather?
Again, I have to defer with the mayor too, but the way I foresee it is we're going to bring it back, the two options. Why? As the public safety chair, I think I should make a recommendation. And I am going to make a recommendation with the pros and cons of both sites. And I think we have to make that decision. And whatever we decide, the public's going to have, not the public, there's a lot of players here, but we're going to have to make the decision what we think is best for the town. But we will.
But I do think that we're hopeful that the volunteer fire department really embraces the concept. We don't want to have to fight them on it. So at the end of the day, Rocco's going to meet with them. Hopefully they can come up with an agreement that puts them fully behind the plan. Maybe we have an option A or B, and then we bring that to them.
Okay, so you're hoping for consensus on round
Yes,
one
we
option?
don't want to just
Okay,
dictate right now.
great, thank you. And any update on where things stand with Phillips Park? What's going to be going on with that?
So I think the soil testing, Chief, you want to give stuff?
The permits have been filed with Freehold Soil, and we're just waiting for them to, okay. Normally, that process can take 8 weeks, 3 months. It's long. They're trying to fast track it for us, or we were hoping to get an answer this week, actually. And as soon as we get that answer, as long as the weather holds up, they're going to start working.
Okay, thank you.
Ralph?
Good evening, Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. With regard to the affordable housing, a couple of questions on what you said versus what you didn't say. The hearing you said will be December 10th. When will the actual ordinances become available so that we can review it?
Once they're finally confirmed with the professionals, we have a pretty substantially final form draft that was discussed in executive tonight, so I think you can request it from the clerk in the very near future. They should be final, and they will certainly be in final form before they're advertised in accordance with the law.
Okay, yeah, because each of the potential projects will need an ordinance of this sort. And hence, I think as I followed you, you said that there were two ordinances that you were talking about tonight. One of them referred to Block 52, Lot 17 and 18.
That's
Am I
correct.
correct in
That's-
recalling that's on Palmer Avenue?
That's correct.
Block 59, Lot 6 and 7, where is that?
That's along Route 35.
Where?
Behind Kohls.
Because that was not in the most recent previous version of this plan.
That is
So
correct.
there's an implication here that the plan has changed.
And there are further actions that the committee will need to take at the direction of the court. And those future actions will obviously be placed on a public agenda, and the public will have a full opportunity to review those before any action is taken.
So is the one, North Piers and Middle Road still being considered?
I can't comment on any of the specifics.
Thank you.
Jenny?
Jenny Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. Are you having a stomachache? Anyway, I came up here to ask about the leaf pickup. If I remember
Sorry, I
correctly,
actually do.
there was a live update, something or other, on the web that would tell every day how far the leaf pickup has proceeded. Is that something that has been activated this year?
Actually, I talked about that same thing with the head of DPW this morning. He did not mention anything specifically of being on the website.
'Cause I think that was your baby.
I don't think that they are at that point, because I actually asked them about it, so
Because did they work on Monday? Because that was a federal holiday.
no, they were closed
And then
on
today
that.
it's raining, so in other words, they haven't done anything.
They were working today, Chief,
Yes,
right?
they were.
Yeah, they were on the street, yeah.
Even when it snowed?
Yes.
Yeah, they were out.
It's very cold.
Yeah, they had the crew out.
All right, because there's Mount Everest of leaves in the leafy part of town. And so before they freeze in place, they ought to, they really need a different way of picking the leaves up. I've been telling you that for a long time. They need a sucker-upper instead of this lobster claw thing, which is quite inefficient. Anyway, so you think they're doing something, but you don't know for sure, because I haven't heard anything. You
They're-
live at sea.
Yeah, they're up in the sea right now, he told me this morning.
All right, well, we'll be out.
Okay, thank you.
Scott?
Scott Goldstein, 24 East Lawn Drive. Regarding the fire station, we've been told that we were supposed to have some preliminary drawings many moons ago, and I was curious whether the architect ever came back from his honeymoon, got divorced, and completed his work.
Was that the problem?
There are preliminary drawings. I'll defer to the counselor if we want to release them. The fire one, Scott, the one for the new firehouse is very preliminary. The one for the new firehouse is very preliminary. It's really a gross drawing. The one for the first aid is really more fine-tuned now because we've had more interaction between those parties. I can't foresee a reason if we put them out, so I think we can, if everyone here agrees, we can show you what we got so far.
I think, I know personally I would love to see it, and I would understand that it's stamped multiple times as preliminary, so that we can at least understand what we're talking about as far as the scope, size, and provide constructive feedback.
All right, so I'll ask our administrator to do it. Just remember, the firehouse is more preliminary than the first aid. That one is just about complete.
And if you put it up on the website under a PDF, we should all be able to take a look at it and give feedback.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Ron?
Ron, I'm at 32 Ladwood Drive. I'm a little bit confused about the fire and the first aid station. I thought the idea was we're building another first aid station because the firehouse was going to go where the first aid station is now. If we're going to F&F Farms, why do we need a new first aid station?
No, there's two plans. The first plan is what you said. We were going to to save money, it would be cheaper to build a new first aid building. So one of the plans will say Plan A, building a new first aid building, retrofitting the current first aid and fire building. That's
That's out
Plan
now.
1. No, it's not out, it's still one of the plans. The second plan we have is to build a completely new firehouse. Right now, it looks like on the F&F property. Where exactly, I'm not sure. So that's Plan 2.
So-
So those are the two plans we're gonna debate up here.
Right.
And vote on.
So Plan 2, so if you do build the new firehouse, excuse me, at F&F, that means there's nothing that needs to be done to the existing first aid station, correct?
Yes, unless there's some minor stuff that we don't know, but essentially, yes.
Gotcha, okay. And the second thing is the fire truck. So the bond was passed, the money's there, you were specking it out last meeting. Have we signed the papers and do we have a delivery schedule?
Well, no, the money was just approved. We're not allowed to spend money we don't have. So
But-
the money's just been approved. That'll be done this week. They expect that. They met with Pierce.
20 days. We have
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, we have 20 days to
20
stop
days
it.
to
So we have
stop
some
it.
time to still wait.
So we haven't actually placed the order
We
for the
cannot
truck?
place the order until we have.
But you
the
expect it
money.
out, yeah?
They've met with Pierce and Pierce is designing the truck with them.
And so when will they have a purchase order for the truck?
6 months left.
20 days.
I mean, I think the intention would be to, if the specs are there for the truck, they're gonna have to go out to bid to procure it. And the next step will be a procurement on a future township committee meeting agenda.
So is that 30 days, 60 days?
I mean, I would say the December meeting's probably a fair time frame if the specs. Well, we'll see if it, I'd say 30 to 60 days.
Thank you.
Barbara?
Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road. Quick question on the affordable housing. You started by saying the court is directing the ordinances. We're having a public hearing. Can we have any effect as residents on this if the court is directing what we need to do?
I mean, you certainly have the right to make a public comment. I think that the public, just like the committee, is very hamstrung by the way the court operates under affordable housing. The committee is trying its best to achieve the best outcome possible, but I think the deck is stacked against everyone when it comes to COA. So you could certainly make the public comments, and I think the committee will welcome those comments. But obviously, the committee is, not at liberty to just do as it sees fit. They're under court obligation to address the affordable housing that's required by the state constitution.
So, and then you said you can't comment on Ralph's question about how this other property is now on the list. Why can't we know how these changes are coming about? I don't imagine it's the judge picking our properties.
I think it's fair to say that there have been issues that have arisen among the litigants with respect to the current COA settlement agreement, which was previously approved by resolution of the Township Committee. These ordinances that are being introduced are, as Ralph pointed out, and it's plainly obvious that there are modifications to the COA plan pursuant to the zoning that's been introduced. And the COA Council is currently preparing further actions that the committee will have to take, and you'll certainly have the ability to look at a future meeting.
So these are all changes that are happening within the lawsuit that's been pending?
Correct.
But
Okay.
the public does play a role, Barbara, because at the end of the day, over the next few weeks, if there's evidence that, could sway any of our minds, and we don't vote on it, we don't vote on it.
Okay. So one more topic, looking forward down the road now to what's happening with this township committee and who our representatives will be in the new year and the reorganization. I'd like to address a couple of things, and I hope our committee people elect are listening. I'm concerned about who will be picked as mayor. Looking at the history of how mayors are chosen here, I'm concerned, and I want to speak up tonight because with respect to the Homedale Library Foundation, there's information floating around that some people are privy to and others are not. And I think everybody should be on the same page. Many months ago, due to the stonewalling I got here, I did request the State Attorney General's office to investigate the foundation. They took up the investigation. It's been going on for several months. While I have been here since then, even asking questions or speaking about it, I am getting responses, particularly from Mr. Bontempo, that I knew to be untrue. I was accused of grandstanding here at the same time that the State Attorney General Office is seeing fit to investigate. I'm offended by your comment to me. I don't think if you are one of the choices for a mayor that that should happen due to this interaction. There is video of you and I when I was here under good times talking about the fundraising, where you talked about the Homedale Foundation. It's on video. I went back and replayed it. You brought it up then that they were doing this fundraising. Yet fast forward to the last few months, you're totally disclaiming any knowledge of the foundation and what they're doing. I find that highly offensive as a resident. As I pointed out, your wife is the trustee, so I know you have knowledge of the foundation and what's going on and the fact that there is an investigation. And I would like for all of you to consider if this is the type of representation we deserve as residents. Whether you're still up here on this committee or you're a resident, you're going to be represented by somebody. And we have to think long and hard about who that person is and how they've been treating residents in the past. Thank you.
First of all, the foundation has nothing to do with the Township Committee. Completely separate entity. I believe they have a 501c3 that they operate under. Has nothing to do with the township. There was not any event that they handled was run specifically by that organization, and I think you are aware of that. And what they do is completely autonomous from the Township Committee. Any money that they contribute or donate to the library is their decision, and it's money that doesn't have to come out of the taxpayers' funding. So this entire claiming of any impropriety is completely false and is trying to create something that is really all fiction. So, you know, the people that were involved in this put a lot of time and effort into doing something that they didn't have to do. They did it because they wanted to improve the new building that we were opening inside of Bell Works. And I think they did an admirable job because the feedback I've gotten from the staff at the library has been overwhelming. They've run programs that they've never been able to run in the past. They didn't have the facilities downstairs, nor did they have the funding to do programs and bring in guest lecturers. So I think when all is said and done, and you look at the positives that the foundation has contributed, it was a no-brainer. I would say, and I think you get support to do it all over again because it was a benefit for the town, and it had zero any negative financial impact or any negative impact on the residents whatsoever. It's a lot of hard work that goes into fundraising, a lot of hard work that goes into creating and volunteering to do something like that. And I take offense to any of these comments that you're making. You could call anybody you want to investigate the organization. It's irrelevant, you know, and you know, to come up and continue to attack is, I find, offensive.
You're under investigation by the state, or the foundation is under investigation by the State Attorney General's office. Do you tell him you're offended that he's investigating, or you just tell me that?
I am not involved whatsoever with the foundation. So you could ask me all the questions you want. There's nothing I could say.
Well, I did, you know, you're misleading the public right now because...
How am I misleading the public?
There was at least one bill that was presented to the foundation that didn't get paid. The county knows about this. This is not just something within the home zone.
What building? I wouldn't even know what bill would or would not get paid.
Okay, then maybe I know more than you know.
We probably do.
So, and as do other people in Homedale and outside of Homedale. I appreciate volunteers. I'm a volunteer in town myself running fundraisers. Never in my 13 years here have I asked someone how a fundraiser went, and they wouldn't respond. And then having, you know, an attorney who stepped in due to the situation, stonewalling my questions, and I don't mean that offensively, Mr. Collins, you're doing your job there, I understand that. That's never happened in 13 years. You want to say you have no connection and this township committee has no connection. I've produced many documents since I've been here showing the connections, so there are connections. You were more than happy to sit up here and talk about the foundation and all the fundraising that was going to be done at the beginning. So to now, step back and say you know nothing about it, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. I have the tax returns.
If I could just make one point, I know you weren't saying anything about it, pejoratively, but in terms of my past responses, I don't think it's fair to characterize them as stonewalling. I mean, the bottom line is you're talking about an independent nonprofit. Obviously, if they donate things to the township, to the extent they're making a donation, that is township business, and that is something that the township would be involved in. But your past comments have continually been about the finances of the foundation, which is not related to the township. So I don't think we've been stonewalling. We've just been commenting that we don't have a response because it's not the township's entity.
I disagree.
Okay, you're entitled to your own belief, but I just want to clarify the record for the
If
people.
we're being told that fundraising is being done, and this is the avenue by which it's being done, and then we're not given the numbers, so we're not privy to how much more money we even need to raise, there's something wrong there. These were basic, normal questions. I wasn't even digging at the time. I was just like, hey, how much did we raise? And it was only due to the reactions of all of you that I ended up going to the Attorney General's office, because these were just normal, everyday questions you weren't answering. I see, in the tax returns, I'm seeing 2 different ones filed for 2017. I'm seeing Mrs. Bontempo putting down on the tax return, devoting 35 hours a week, unpaid. I'm not saying it's paid, but 35 hours a week to the foundation. This bond should be, fully funded by now at that rate. So there's definitely questions here, and I think if anybody goes back and looks at the tapes when I was asking the questions, they'll see the same reactions I saw, and those reactions are questionable to the residents here who are fully familiar with fundraising in Homedale. Thank you.
I respectfully ask to respond somewhat. My name is Emery Bontempo, 22 Grandview Drive. Mrs. Singer?
Anne Marie, if you could face the committee.
In regards to what Mrs. Singer said, my husband has nothing to do with the Homedale Library Foundation. I don't speak to him about it. I have a separate computer for it. I have a separate printer for it. I have separate records for it. I have it locked under key. Everything is separate. Thanks to Mrs. Singer going to the Attorney General, we have had to spend over $24,000 in legal fees that will be directly coming out of what was raised. So that is money that could have been spent on the library, but will not be spent on the library. I also have to ensure that in perpetuity, I keep things legally available to the Attorney General. So that money will also be spent in doing that instead of spending it on the library. For many good reasons, we've had a stonewall effect, and I don't want to get into the Donna Fierro Business Administrator, but we had difficulty trying to communicate to the Township Council. I got stonewalled. So it's very difficult to try and give money in a proper and efficient way when I cannot access the people who oversee the library. There is a triangle of a marriage here. The township oversees the hardscape of the library. They have a contract with the county. The county supplies the books and the people in the library. I have to figure out who to talk to. If I talk to the librarian, they are not employed by the township. If I give something, or the foundation gives something, I need to know it's what the township wants in the library, not just the librarian. So there's several people, several entities, and there's no clear line for me to follow right now. With what's been going on in the Township Council, the Homedale Library Foundation has taken a step back. We wanted to see where all the cards fell. But we are more than willing to cooperate with the township to find out what this library needs and move forward. But there was, for the past 10 to 12 months, and disarray of proper procedure and protocol. And I will not do anything that breaks the law, and that's why you'll find 2 filings. I actually went and had it redone because it wasn't done properly the first time. And you quoted 35 hours, which was from the first time the audit was done.
No, I have the other one.
Well, in the beginning, yes, it's almost a full-time job for me, between the Attorney State General, all of the records they wanted, and all the paperwork I've been doing. And you were approached by Mrs. Flynn after you sent your letter, and she spoke with you. So you were approached, and you were spoken to about the actions of the foundation. So don't tell anyone that you were not. And please, I would really like to make sure that everyone understands, there is a separation between the foundation and this committee, period. Thank you.
So there is money that just needs to be, when at due time, you would just distribute to the county for the library?
Not to the county, I will.
Distribute directly to the library?
No, it goes to the vendors. I never pay the township, I never pay the county. I pay directly to the vendors that provide the service. What I ask is that I get invoiced properly so that I can make a payment on record that is legal and appropriate. So if something is not paid, it is because I have not been invoiced properly. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I make a response since I was addressed?
Is there any other
Why
questions?
can't I make a response
Go
if
ahead,
I was
Barbara,
just
real quick.
addressed?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Is there a rule of law you want to
It's not a
refer me
debate.
to?
Just-
I know it's
you
not
got
a
a-
debate,
you got a
but I was
minute for
addressed by
rebuttal.
another
I just-
resident. So Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road. I'd like to point out that Somerset has had no issue forwarding money to the township for their portion of the bond. That money from the Homedale Library Foundation was not just to pay bills, it was to cover our portion of the bond. And finally, with respect to Ms. Flynn, I wrote to several of the trustees. Mrs. Von Temple never responded to me. Had there been a response and information provided to the public, we wouldn't have had to go to the Attorney General's office. Secondly, Ms. Flynn in that conversation informed me, her explanation is not what you're saying tonight, and in that same conversation informed me she was stepping down from the board because of how things were being handled. She didn't want any part of it. That's what our conversation was about, for clarity. Thank you.
Anything else from the public?
She stepped down because she was sitting on
Sure.
the Board of Education.
J&L 18 Lyman Drive. I think this is the 4th time I'm bringing this topic up, and relative to this, giggle, but the deer situation. Ever since Ms. Ballmer's property was cleared, it has gotten worse in South Homedale for many of us. Pulling out of our driveway now, we often have 3 or 4. Going to pick up my daughter at Christian Brothers Academy at night. When she's at theater practice, it's like a dangerous video game on 520. It's only a matter of time. And I know this isn't an easy thing to resolve, but I really think we have to get serious with the county. And the county has to wake up, and something has to be done. There are often 10, 12 outside of our property now. And again, 520 has become an extremely dangerous road at night. Does anyone have any?
Have you seen any increase in the amount of traffic, deer related?
In accidents, no. There's a lot more deer sightings, people are maybe used to it. We did do that, the county does their hunt, they're doing it right now. Several years ago, we jumped in with them and did it at the same time, because all the deer do is run from the county park into our park.
Yeah.
So we did it at the same time. There's a lot of pushback from the public. I was probably lieutenant then. I think just the township
I
committee
will
just voted
also
not to
tell
do it
you,
again.
on a couple private pieces of land, there's been a lot of hunting, a lot, more than you think. It's, you're allowed, I believe, over 5 acres or 3 acres, you're allowed to hunt your own land.
Correct.
And I know for a fact that there's a lot of hunting, so I don't have a solution.
Does anyone know if deer strikes will affect car insurance rates in this area? Because just like the whole fire situation.
Isn't that no fault?
Correct.
So there's no correlation in the region with, no, I can understand there's no fault, but just like that whole firehouse thing, which maybe wasn't addressed in a timely manner, affected our homeowners' rates materially.
No,
You're kind of, no, I could foresee this affecting our car rates in Hometown at
yes,
some point.
when I tried to do a hunt here, which got shot down.
Yeah.
Literally, like people would run their dogs through it, so their dogs would get shot. I talked to the county again. They're limited what they can do too. Looking online and talking to other towns, a lot of them have formed a animal control committee, which we could do. But looking at the things that we went through with deer birth control and all the other stuff, I don't know. If you want to form a deer or animal control committee, I'd be happy, I'm sure the mayor would be happy to do it. You could be the
I don't want to form a committee, I just want the deer to be.
So I'd like to make a motion that Jay and I be as chair of deer control population. Do I get a second? Jay, congratulations. If there's anybody in the world that can scare the shit out of deer.
I think that's a compliment. I'm predicting here our car rates will go up from this, thank you.
I think we're done for the night. Motion adjourned. Everybody enjoy your night.